Hey everyone, I'm Fyre, and today we're trying something a little different. So on February 5th, Game Attack and Ray Narvaez Jr. collaborated on a scavenger hunt stream, which they conducted through games in their game libraries. The way the scavenger hunt worked is that both Ray and the crew from Game Attack were given a list of tasks to complete, and they had to race to be the first one to complete those tasks in any video game that they could come up with. For example, they were given the task, get killed by a bear, and each of them had to come up with a game where they could get killed by a bear and get it on video as proof that they completed the task. If you've ever seen the old Achievement Hunter series Go, it's pretty similar to that. Anyways, being a big fan of the original Achievement Hunter gang, and also a big fan of scavenger hunts and video games in general, and things like that, I was really excited about this idea. And as soon as I finished the stream, I immediately rushed home to plan my own scavenger hunt. So I took the basic idea from Game Attack's scavenger hunt, adapted it, added a few rules of my own, and collaborated with AK on making our own original twist on it. And with that, the Fyre and AK scavenger hunt was born. As far as changes, there was a variety of things we tweaked. Starting off, we took their original list of 55 tasks and reduced it to 50, replacing a few, changing a few, and moving things around as we kind of felt necessary. Likewise, since neither of us were streaming, but instead of recording it from our own devices at home, we added a few different rules and restrictions for both of us to kind of set to. First, we came up with a list of games that we thought were a little bit too broken to use in this scavenger hunt, and disabled them. So on our disabled list went GTA 5, Minecraft, Animal Crossing, Wii, and any game that you could play in a desktop browser. Next, even though we weren't streaming, we set up the rule that every task that was completed had to be captured on video, for posterity's sake and for proof. We also established that we needed a Discord message to check in every time we finished a task, and also to provide a little bit of pressure between both of us to see how far the other one was getting. Then we also came up with a few rules about the fairness of the tasks. One thing we decided is that we were okay with replacements. So for example, if you got killed by a bear in game A and then killed by a bear in game B, you could decide to count game B or game A. It was up to you. And we also decided that double counting was okay. So for example, if you got jump scared by a bear, then that could count for the jump scare task and the killed by a bear task. It didn't have to only count for one or another. And we also established a point system. In the original Game Attack scavenger hunt, they played as the first person to complete all of their tasks would be the winner, but for AK and I, we knew we only had a limited amount of times in our days, so we decided to do the scoring system instead. What we decided on is that we would have 1 point given for each task that was checked off, and every individual game that was played to do tasks would award the person 1 point. This way, our point system simultaneously favored someone who did all of the tasks and someone who did a variety of games for creativity and originality. Finally, the last thing we established was a time period. We set aside 4 hours of our day to do this hunt, because we wanted to give it ample time, but that way we also wouldn't be going on all day long. So with these rules in place, we had our hunt all set up, and all that was left was to take off. Hour 1, I hit the ground running. The very first thing I did was open up my Xbox and started installing Five Nights at Freddy's. I knew it would take a while, however, so while that installed, I hopped over to my desktop and started grinding out a few tasks there. Since I'd recently been playing Hades, my mind's turned there first. So, turning it on, I immediately walked over to Cerberus and got the pet a dog task done.
Always have more pets for the greatest boy.
Then, making my way to the weapons vault, I grabbed the gun, started a run, and took out a few enemies with my grenade launcher to get the task, kill an enemy with a grenade launcher done. Done with Hades for the moment, but wanting to keep up my pace, I switched over to Stardew Valley. Upon loading it up, I immediately exploited a little secret I knew, and clicked on the E a bunch in Stardew to have a little green alien appear, and check off the task, find a little green alien. Once in the game, that's when the real work began. Loading up an old farm of mine, I went out to the fields to harvest a crop, aka these nice little cherries. Then, a little deeper on my farm, I found a sheep, gave it a little love, and then finally, I explored some of my harvested items to find and eat an apple. Taking on the world of Stardew, I left my farm and went north to use a teleporter that I remembered had been left behind by a witch. In Stardew's mines, I went to the earlier floors to kill a bug, and then went a little bit deeper to get killed by a ghost. Finally, I took out my fishing rod, caught a fish, and decided to call it with Stardew. With a half hour already down, I had 10 tasks done and 2 games played, and I was feeling pretty good. At this point, I made the switch over to Genshin Impact, where I grabbed 3 more tasks. First, I beat the Cryo-Regisvine to get the task done for beating a boss. Then, I went over to the bar to find the missing persons poster of my long-lost sibling. Then finally, I went up to the peak of one of the highest mountains to shoot a bird out of the sky with my good girl Ganyu. With that done, I made my way over to Osu, where I play a little bit of Osu Taiko, and got the task done for playing an instrument, in this case, a drum. At this point, Five Nights at Freddy's had finished installing on my Xbox, so I switched back to Xbox and hopped on. Starting up a new game, I got the achievement for surviving the first night. Then, on night 2, I wasted all my power and let myself get jump scared to death by this creepy animatronic. And just like that, the first hour was over. Within the first hour of the hunt, I had completed 16 tasks, and was more than on pace for completing the list. However, while I was hard at work, so was AK. At the beginning of the second hour, I hopped back on PC and loaded up A Hat in Time. There, I grabbed 2 tasks back to back. First, I grabbed the task for getting 3 collectibles in the game, in this case, these little green orbs. Then, I unlocked the Golden Vault by collecting these tickets to get the task Unlock a Safe. Switching back over to Xbox, I loaded up Halo the Master Chief Collection, and specifically Halo CE, and went straight to the second level. There, I walked behind a waterfall and found the Mystic School for the task Find Something Behind a Waterfall. Speaking of water, also on Xbox I got on Ori Will of the Wisps, went straight to the escape sequences, and found a water wheel, or several actually. At this point I found myself scrambling for ideas for the first time since the beginning of the hunt. So I started backtracking. Going back on Stardew Valley, I got 69 coal in my inventory for the task at 69 of an item. Nice. Then I rode in the minecarts around town to get the task done right in a minecart. Backtracking again, I got back on Genshin and pulled out Ganyu to explode some barrels. Though my backtracking had certainly worked, I knew at this point if I wanted points for variety and simply to get these tasks done, I knew I needed to start getting creative. So that's exactly what I did. Scrolling through my Steam library, I found a few games that gave me the edge in variety and the edge in tasks. First, pulling up Drawful, I drew my name to get the task done, draw your name. Then, re-downloading Emily is Here, I sent Emily some mail for the task Mail a Letter. And a likewise inspired choice, I also got on Cuphead, went to the fair, and jumped on this boss's roller coaster for a few steps for the task Ride a Roller Coaster. Lastly, I got on Portal 2 and used some lasers to kill a few turrets, aka small talking robots, for the task Destroy Robot. With that, I had 27 tasks down and 2 hours left to go on the hunt. At that point, I was feeling pretty good about the progress I had made so far, but I was worried about what the next hour held. As the third hour rolled around, I took a big risk. Backtracking to Hades, I knew that if I made it far enough into a run, there was a good chance that I could run into Thanatos, aka the god overseeing death, who was, in essence, the Grim Reaper. And with that, I would be able to check off the Grim Reaper task from my list. While there was no guarantee he would show up in a run, I decided to have faith and plowed on ahead. So, starting my Hades run, I picked up the shield and began making my way through the rooms. Along the way, when I killed Meg, I picked up the task to kill an elderly person, because Meg is essentially thousands of years old, and that's pretty elderly to me. And then I picked up a choice drink from my friend here to drink a mana potion, and continued my push through Elysium. However, much to my horror, I made it all the way through and didn't once run into Thanatos. With that, my plan to get the Grim Reaper task done was out the window. And within the first half hour of hour 3, I had only gotten 2 tasks done. Knowing I needed to recover my pace, I went back on Xbox and got on a game I was holding in my back pocket, Yakuza 0. There, I immediately picked up the task for winning a kung fu fight, and shortly after, beating someone to death with an iron pipe. Though I intended to get a few more tasks done in Yakuza, I was having some issues with my save data, so I had to take a short break. During that short break, I went back to PC and started getting creative again. Hopping on Dishonored, I used some of Corvo's abilities and took a mana potion to update my mana potion task from Hades to Dishonored. Then, getting back on Osu, I played a new song 5 times to get all 5 local rankings and effectively get 5th place in a task. And just like that, the third hour was up. At this point, I had only completed 32 tasks, and had only completed 5 tasks since the last hour. Though earlier I was on pace to succeed, it was at this point that I was really beginning to sweat, and began doubting whether or not I stood a shot. Going into the final hour of the hunt, I knew I needed to pull out a lot of tasks if I wanted to win. So I immediately got to work. Working out what was going on with my save data in Yakuza, I won $1,000 gambling and crafted a tool. For a moment, I was out of ideas again and started to panic. However, it was at that point that I remembered the one console I hadn't used yet, the Nintendo Switch. Pulling out my Switch, I got on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, hopped on Pikachu, and put him in a cute little cap to grab the task for wearing a hat backwards. Then, I switched to Pokemon Shield, and that's when the tasks started coming in back to back. Getting into Pokemon, I immediately flew back to the starter town and my house, where I went to the kitchen to find a microwave, for the task Find a Microwave. Then, running around the world, I also rode a bike, got a haircut, and pulled out a low-level Pokemon to get killed by a Stuffle, aka a bear. Out of tasks I could do on Pokemon, I went back to Xbox to do a last bit of cleanup as the end of the hour rolled around. First, I got on Minecraft's Dungeons, different from Minecraft, so still allowed despite the disable, and used a firework arrow to watch a firework go off. Then, in the last 15 minutes of the run, I took one last risk. Loading up the game Race to the Sun, I intended to break my previous score of 1,000,000 to get the 1,000,000-point task done, and also another point for variety. However, I overestimated my skill, and as the end of the hour rolled around, I hadn't completed the task. Though I knew with another 10 minutes I could break 1,000,000, I had to stop. And just like that, the 4 hours were done. At the end of everything, I had completed 40 of the 50 total tasks, and had done so in 17 different games. Meanwhile, AK had completed 33 of the 50 total tasks, but had done so in 25 different games. So, totaling our scores with our point system, 1 point for each task completed, and 1 point for each individual game, our final scores came out to 57 and 58. After all that work, after such an intense hunt, I had lost by 1 measly point. Though I had completed more tasks, AK got more points for variety, and in the end, that gave him the extra edge he needed to take the win. Though I was disappointed with myself over the loss, overall, it was a great game. With all the ups and downs, we were neck and neck the whole time. And both of us had shown some great creativity in getting our tasks done. Though it was our first hunt ever, I can say without a doubt that it was a huge success, and I had a ton of fun playing. While he may have defeated me this time, next time, I'm not going down so easy. Thank you so much for following our journey along this scavenger hunt. If you like this video and want to see more like it, feel free to subscribe and explore videos on my page or AK's page. A huge thank you to Game Attack for coming up with the scavenger hunt, and Ray Narvaez Jr. for putting it on my radar. If you want to follow along with our scavenger hunt using the rules outlined in this video, both the listed tasks and the rules will be linked in the description below. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and I'll see you in the next video.